So, welcome to the MaArtial podcast. I think we're on number 8 now, and we have a very, very special guest today, and it's John Burke from Devon, Newton Abbot. So, I first met John in 2009, as I just spoke to you before. We're a weekend training, and since then kept in touch a little bit. So, in a normal class, what's your procedure if you have let's say, a class of beginners, and the first lesson, how would you approach it?
We're going to do a set of exercise to warm up.
Yeah.
About 15 to 17 minutes. And then we're going to do some standing basics. And then if I've got someone who's in their first class, they'll be very confused. Because we're going straight into all of this, and they're trying to copy because I've told them they're going to copy, but they're looking really confused. So then I will stop, and I will present one simple application for Gidam Barai.
Perfect. That's perfect.
We'll do that as a group. It will take them about 4 minutes, and then we'll get back on to performing those standing basics, but this time with some relevance in their mind.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly how I imagined it, that you would give the reason halfway through and then get back to it and keep going.
That's it. And then we'll go to some walking basics and combinations, and then we'll do some partner work. And at one end of the week, we're going to do a load of kata, and at another end of the week, we're going to do some sparring, and another, we're going to get some pads out. And we try and vary it so that classes are different, because people need their difference, but they also need their reliable element.
Yeah, the discipline part and the routine part.
I've got to make sure that we fill that bill as well. Yes, we are going to be wearing uniforms unless you're brand new and you haven't got one yet. And then we're going to be using a bit of Japanese terminology, and I'm going to tell them that they don't have to learn it, that these things are going to be repeated incessantly, and they're just going to get it by.
Yeah. This is what I mean by the rituals. I mean, I think it's fascinating also for the audience that there are rituals in karate, of course, and
so have a reason for bowing.
Right. Yeah, for example.
I like we said at the very, very start, having reasons for doing things. When you explain to someone that a Japanese bow has the same relevance as an Englishman's handshake, if you mess up your handshake, you've all seen those people who shake hands and it's
like a wet fish,
wet fish handshake. But you can do the same with a bow.
Yeah, I see.
Your bow
really
is like this. Oh, it tells people so much about you.
Yeah, total disrespect. Yeah,
sloppiness,
clumsiness.
Me as the governor in my club, I don't have to bow so low as the someone a bit further down. But when my teacher comes to visit, my bow is deeper than anyone else's. So there are privileges for being the boss.
Yeah, of course, must be something.
Those basic techniques have a reason for doing them. Those walking techniques have a reason for doing them. The sparring have a reason for doing it. There are we know how many clubs who have gone, well, we're into realism, so 5-step kumite, that's gone out the window, we're not doing that anymore. And I say, hang on, maybe it does have a relevance. Because when someone comes to me and they don't know how to fight and they're a bit scared of fighting, 5-step is a really good exercise to start them off with, because they start off that far away from someone who's told, I'm going to punch you in the face. And they've got a ritual for what they're going to do about that punch. And it's a certain cadence. And they're learning that they can cope. So more than this technique is for blocking a punch, they learn to cope with the intensity of someone being that far away from them.
Yeah.
And then we can open them up. We can grow them from there once they can cope. But I know, and I'm sure you do, where the first thing they do is they go, right, get in the ring, let's see what you got.
Yeah, this is, they try and call it, jumping in at the deep end, but it's just bullying, basically. It's just brutal.
Yeah.
What do you learn from that? You learn that you can't fight. That's the only thing you learn.
Do you go from the opportunity to help you? Probably not.
Are you watching Cobra Kai? Do you get into that? Yeah, I think you're a fan, aren't you? Yeah.
I love it. And
yeah, me too. Me too.
it's entertainment, and
Yeah,
people.
the yin and yang of the two dojos. You can see
Yeah,
the good and the evil. But I always say, well, we need both. I mean, but both of these schools have
what,
something to offer.
what,
And
sometimes what Johnny says, and you think, he's the bad guy in so many ways, but
yeah,
sometimes I agree with him.
absolutely, yeah, me too. It's like, quiet. Everybody,
not,
shut
not,
up.
not everything, but there's sometimes
No.
Daniel really winds you up. So
Well, he's so perfect, isn't he? He's so,
it,
so John Boy style, like the Waltons, and he's so wholesome that you just want to go to the other gym and go to the other one and just work out and do something, solid. So, I often think of the Dragon Society sometimes as, sometimes the dark side, and then you come back and, oh my God, I've got to go back there again because it's so good. Like the pressure point stuff. The integrity, as I say, one of the words that we like to try to even analyze it. What does it mean? So we talk about two definitions of it. One is that it's, you're honest, you keep your word, or things like that, or that it's whole.
So integrity, true to yourself, is another way of looking at it, isn't it?
Sure.
What to be true, where you're coming from, it has to serve you, and we'll all do that in our own way, won't we?
So you still enjoy being the sensei?
Well, it's a nice, respectful thing to be regarded that way. It's also a huge responsibility, on which we sometimes fail to live up to, and
that doesn't it mean just the person who was born before, but in the the knowledge sense,
well,
not in age.
That's the end point, isn't it? Is that we're fallible. It doesn't make us perfect. We're just on the same road as everyone else. We might have started off a little way before them.
Were you nervous about becoming the teacher then, or changing from the first few lessons?
Because I had the joy of when I was 11. I wanted to be like my teacher,
right?
And he was great.
Already.
And so in later years, getting the opportunity to teach under a different teacher by that point, but he wanted to run a juniors class, and he was never going to get there early enough to do it. John,
right.
you take
step in,
all right,
have a go.
I'll do it. There's going to be 2 kids there. It's not a problem. And then later on again, moving over to Newton Abbot, and the teacher would say, "Go and teach the yellow belts through their cap." Or Sensei, I'll go and do it.
Yeah. So you just jumped in.
When the teacher starts going, right, I won't be in on Wednesday. You take the class.
Yeah, they trust you completely then, and it's no problem. Yeah. So you didn't have imposter syndrome, as they talk about now.
Well, I think that I think you'd be too arrogant if you didn't have a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. You should have a bit of that. Yeah.
Because there's always someone faster, stronger, bigger than you are. But I'm lucky that my students keep me pushed.
Yeah, on your toes.
They challenge. We have some challenging behaviour and some challenging.
Hopefully, no challenges from other senseis in Newton Abbot. Not yet.
Once in a blue moon, someone shows up and.
Oh dear! What's all that about, eh? Yeah, and can you tell us a little bit about history of kata? Because I read somewhere, or I studied a little bit, that there weren't that many actually done originally, but more were created because they just needed to show, the emperor or the competition from judo or something. They needed to show more. So that's one story. The other story is that it's hidden. It was like speaking Cockney or something, that other people couldn't understand it, and so they hid all the fighting moves in the kata. What's your research?
There's not one story,
right.
because karate is this wonderful hodgepodge of information. It's come together from so many different places that all those stories have their relevance. So we do we have kata that go back an age? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
I think people get very, very upset when we say that there's no such thing as the original kata anymore, because they'd like to be, and they've all been taught that their teacher has passed it on true and did not change anything.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
How are we going to know?
that's not really very likely.
Yeah.
And let's face it, if you've been doing the same kata for a long time, you've probably made a few changes without even realizing it. And then you get people who've deliberately changed kata.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did they change kata based on the same criteria that you would apply? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Things have been changed for aesthetics, things have been changed for exercise, and things have been changed because some applications have fallen by the wayside. You know, dealing with someone wearing antique armor is very different to dealing with someone in jeans and t-shirts today. So some things have had to change to deal with those things. So bearing in mind we live in the world we live in, we try to dissuade people from being hung up on the idea that you've got to have the most original, the most ancient form of a kata, because you simply cannot tell what's. If you got to train with Itosu, you might see the way his kata was, but there's no one alive today who trained with.
Yeah, or Musashi, or the samurai. We can't really train with the samurai anymore, can we?
Things changed, yes, undoubtedly. And did kata change? Did they invent new kata? Some invented new kata so that they had more to teach.
Yes.
So that they could survive after World War II. Some invented kata because they were clever enough to go, this student needs to do it this way, and this student needs to do it that way, because that was the premise they were working on.
Yeah.
But obviously that depends on whether you were there at the time to detect what the students had as their benefits. So no, the world is open for us to explore, and some people are terrified by that, and they don't like it because we can't tell what the original is. Oh, we've got a problem. No, we've got opportunity, because tell what the original is, and we ought to thrive on that rather than being scared of it. You need to make it relevant for you today.
Yeah, it's a good way of looking at it, that you don't have to follow dogma. You make it your own and explore your own interpretation of it, as long as it's logical and workable.
If you're looking to win medals in sport, then kata's going to go a certain route. But if you're looking to make it relevant to your needs, whether that's for health or whether that's for self-defense, then you need to make your kata relevant to that. The trouble, I think, is that people sometimes jump too early onto one or the other without having done the work first. So, there is something to be said for just do your kata, just get on with it and do. And later we can decide what bits are useful to you and what bits aren't.
Yeah, and if you have any ideas, of course, like sort of karate tips for everyday life, things you've learned or things that help you in daily life, like how to sit, how to stand up, I don't know, how to breathe, sanchin.
Constant battle.
yeah. Or you're constantly ready for battle. You're watching the TV or something like that.
So the big one for daily life has got to be awareness, hasn't it?
Yes.
Awareness is high, then we hopefully don't meet these aggressive situations in the first place. We frequently telling the students, be aware of your situation, be aware of what's around you, be aware of your exits, be aware of the people who are around you, and trust your gut when someone else's energy is a little bit off kilter.
Well, exactly. I mean, just changing carriage. I mean, even on the metro here in Prague, it's such a simple thing to do, but someone gets on, they're drunk. Just change the carriage. It's one.
Yeah.
It's like 2 minutes. You just get out and go to another carriage. Or if, it's obviously people are trouble, just go.
That people's attitudes these days are, I have a right to be here. I have a right to wear
That's it. Entitled. This is my seat, And
you say, well, yeah, you do, but the person who is going to assault you is going to commit a criminal act, and that means that they don't care what your rights are.
Exactly. Yeah,
They
exactly.
can do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I look after you, and so I'd say, yeah, changing carriage, crossing the road, making sure you don't use that cash point that's got that dodgy guy watching it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, basic things, but people don't do it. Even with the phones, how many times you see people's heads buried in these things, and they're living in two universes at one time. And I just say, which universe do you want to live in when you're crossing the street?
Yeah.
I would prefer the concrete universe at that moment.
I definitely want the car driver to be in this universe.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're going to do one day. They're going to invent cars where you're just going to be watching, a DVD, or you're going to be watching a home cinema in a car one day, and they're going to say, "Hold on, this is getting a bit out of hand, this technology." So I hope that doesn't happen. But we're old school. We don't have to deal with that. We just put our phones in our pockets and get them. I check the time usually.
Let's try and educate people around us that the universe that they go on to live in once
Absolutely.
is still a good one.
Yeah. Well, sorry to take up too much of your time. You might be getting hungry now. You might need to use the restroom. So I'll say goodbye, and maybe we can do another one in a few months. So we can do John Burke 2 with a different word and or a different philosophy in a few months. So absolute pleasure, mate. All right. See you soon. And if you like the video, please subscribe and do all the usual stuff. Click on the bell, and you know what to do. And if you have a review, if you want to ask John more questions, maybe I can pass them on to him. But he's got a website, which we will leave down there, and have a look at his DDs. Fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, John. Have a nice rest of day.
Take care.
Thank you.
Begin your martial journey. Like, comment, subscribe.